What's up, guys, and welcome to our very first episode of Spurs Up. I'm your host, DeAngelo Stevenson.
And I'm your other host, Ben Parsons.
And we have a fantastic show for you today. You know, a little bit of football, a little bit of basketball. So let's swing it on here. First topic we're going to talk about today, LeBron James, Charles Barkley. Well, recently, LeBron James had a little scuffle, with the Cavaliers. He obviously wanted help for the Cavs. He felt like the team wasn't really playing like they were a year ago. And Charles Barkley really had his input to say he was much more of a punk. He was a wussy. He's tired of the NBA babying him up. And this is what LeBron James had to say about the issue. He's a hater. What makes what he says credible? Because he's on TV, I'm not going to let him disrespect my legacy like that. I'm not the one who threw someone under the window, never spit on a kid, never had unpaid debt in Las Vegas. I never said I'm not a role model. I'm tired of biting my tongue. There's a new sheriff in town. So Ben, the question I have for you.
Yep.
Do you think LeBron James did the right thing by stepping his foot down and actually addressing someone like Charles?
It depends on how you define the right thing, because LeBron James has been the focal point in the NBA for the last, 10, 12 years, or whatever it's been. And he's been under so much scrutiny. No matter, he takes the wrong step, he breathes wrong, he misses one shot or one game-winning shot. He's under so much scrutiny. And he had it. This is the first time in a while, I think, since one of his rookie seasons that he's just been like, he's fired back. And Charles Barkley just rubbed him the wrong way. And it wasn't, what LeBron did wasn't unwarranted, because he is the most talked about player in the NBA. Everything he does is crucified. And I mean, in that sense, it's just crazy to me to see that. So what do you think about it, D?
For me, I think he did the right thing. I think it was time for someone of his caliber to actually say, hey, I'm sick of everybody making me seem like I'm a puppet. I'm going to break out of my shell. Now, I think he went too personal a little bit with some of the comments that he made. But overall, you look at some of the stars that we had in recent years, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, and the list goes on and on. But LeBron James is actually setting a stepping stone for people in the past and in the future to saying, hey, I'm the face of the league. I'm not your puppet. I'm going to say what I have to say, and I'm going to be me.
And it's all about using your voice. Like LeBron's been good at picking his moments to use his voice. Like when him and Dwayne Wade and Chris Paul went up and used their voice to talk about all the civil unrest and or disparity that's been going on in this country and the terrible things that have happened. And I'm a huge LeBron fan. I do think, like Dee said, I think he went a little too personal, but I think he was just tired of Charles Barkley just wailing on him every day.
Yeah, we know who Charles is. Charles is an analyst. He says what he says. The job of an analyst is also to criticize. But I feel like, as a star in the NBA, it's not bad to ask for help. You want to be the team that you have to be a year ago, but this is also what LeBron has to realize. The NBA is a business.
Yeah.
People are not going to be, like, they lost Dellavedova and they lost some other good names on that franchise, but that's the ways of the NBA. People come and go.
And I mean, LeBron's looking at it this way. His team he's trying to make his team the best possible team to face Golden State. And for me, LeBron's arguably either one or two in the greatest players of all time. And for me, if he does somehow beat this Golden State team this year or next year, I would put him over Michael. You can yell at me for that, but the amount of talent he's facing now and the amount of pressure he's having, because even in the East, there's teams like the Wizards and the Celtics that are just right on their toes right now.
I wouldn't agree with you more, because I feel like if he does beat Golden State again, I feel like his legacy is just beyond great. I feel like he surpasses Michael. All the conversation saying that he's not going to pass Michael, I don't think the rings really show for it. It's the performance. I mean, you beat probably the best team we've had in our era.
Yeah.
And you beat them twice. And if you have the chance to do that, then who's to say you're not better than Jordan?
Exactly.
You are better than Jordan. So I feel like he should just take his time and allow it to relax with the team he's with. He has a good core, Kyle Korver. He has a three-point specialist, and Richard Jefferson as well, J.R. Smith. So that team is really, really, really good. I just feel like he just needs to give him time. The season's still rolling around. Just wait until the end of the year, the playoffs come around. Then you can talk about if your team is actually the same team.
And wait for your team to get healthy. I mean, Kevin Love's injury is pretty big. Exactly. Kyrie's going to have to step up, and some of those role players you mentioned are definitely going to have to step up their game.
Exactly. All right, now moving along, we're going to switch over to the NFL. Probably a week and a half ago, Tom Brady won his 5th Super Bowl ring. The question I have for you is an 18th season worth it? Is it really worth it?
For Brady?
Yes.
Well, for Brady, I mean, he just had a phenomenal year. I mean, his stats were unheard of. He's what, 39?
39. He will be
39 years
40
old. He's
in August.
39 years old. He's almost 40. And I mean, he only played in 12 games, yes, but his stats were unheard of. He dominated this season. There was a good argument to make him the MVP. I mean, I wanted Matt Ryan to win the MVP. I thought he deserved it, but Brady was phenomenal. And could he just retire and say I'm done and be on top? Yes, but that's not the type of player Brady is. He's going to want to win. He knows he has a good team around him, and he's going to keep on trying until he either gets hurt or he's finally told not to play anymore.
When you look at Tom Brady, you look at the resume as well. You know, he came in 2001 as a backup with Drew Bledsoe, and he's just had a golden
Vinny
career.
Testaverde.
Huh?
No, like they used to have Vinny Testaverde, didn't they too?
Vinny Testaverde. I'm sorry about Vinny. My bad. My bad, Vinny. I'm sorry. But still, like, this guy had a golden career. He only had one bad year, and that was in 2008 when he had the knee injury. But even coming back from that, he still excelled as one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. There's no argument that he's the best quarterback of all time. You know, better than Steve Young, Joe Elway.
John
Elway, I'm sorry, excuse me. Whoever you want to name, he's the best quarterback of all time. And I think that the story...
You have him without a doubt over Montana now?
Yes. Even with the story this year,
That's fair.
Deflated case, the way he came back this year in the win of Super Bowl, it's just phenomenal. I think there's no better way in with the comeback win, 25 points in the Super Bowl. There's no better way to end a career. I think there's nothing else he has to prove. I feel like the next couple of years for him is just going to be for fun.
Yeah.
Even if he wins the Super Bowl, it'll be like adding more to his legacy. But still, it's all for fun and games. He has nothing to prove in my eyes.
Exactly. I mean, he has nothing left to prove, but I mean, at this point, it's really about how the Patriots are going to move on moving forward, because the Patriots have Jimmy Garoppolo, and they don't know what to do with him necessarily, because they're not going to tell Tom Brady, you have to retire. They're not going to do what the Colts did to Peyton Manning, because Tom Brady's arguably, like you said, the best quarterback of all time. It's a tough situation to say, hey, you have to be done. So, I mean, the Patriots now have to figure out what they're going to do with Jimmy Garoppolo. Do they trade him? Do they keep him on the bench and run the risk of him leaving in free agency in a year? So, I mean, that's the only thing about this 18th season from the Patriots' perspective. It's a little troubling. But in Brady's perspective, he should definitely play. I mean, why not? He was fantastic this year, and he has his 5th Super Bowl ring. Why not go for your 6th?
And he has Giselle.
That's very true.
We love Giselle. You know, coming up next, we have our guest host. You know, we have our first guest host of the new show, and we are looking forward to announcing her. So we'll see you guys right back in a minute. And now we are back with our lovely guest host, Miss Nya Green, you know, the lovely lady from Sumter, South Carolina. How you doing, Nya?
You know, I'm great. It's really hot in here.
I know it is hot. We have no AC. It's terrible.
That sucks a lot.
You know, so what brings you on the show today?
Well, I'm here to talk about something that, like, I've been following USC men's basketball since the beginning. Okay. And I truly, in my heart of hearts, believe that Sindarius Thornwell needs to be the SEC Player of the Year. Yeah. And I believe, like, I'm making this case not because, of course, we attend the university, not because I'm biased, but because, like, I've seen his progression even going out of last season into this season. And a lot of people make the argument that he's going up against guys like Josh Jackson and Malik Monk. And when I look in terms of Malik Monk, who is the #1 leading scorer in the SEC, Sindarius is the second. Malik Monk, in terms of, like, Player of the Year, I feel like he's someone that belongs solely in the NBA.
Well, yeah.
I'm not saying that he's not a leader of the team, but you can definitely see there's leadership as far as what Sindarius brings to the table. First of all, he's the #1 defender for USC. As we can all see, he's probably the best rebounder we have so far in college basketball. He is a relentless finisher. His career high is 44 points, which he got in quadruple overtime a couple weeks ago versus Alabama. And even though...
in a classic game.
Yeah, in a very anxiety... that was a horrible game for my anxiety. But even with that quadruple overtime loss, Sindarius managed to get 44 points in the game, 21 rebounds, and he now leads the SEC. He has the record for the most free throw attempts made in the SEC. And even though, you know, the Gamecocks lost the game, all there was to be talked about was
his performance.
Thornwell. It was all we could talk about was his performance. So, and like the guy, like back on that 25 free throws, his free throw percentage is like 86%.
Yeah, and I mean, like the big thing about Sindarius Thornwell, like you said, is the leadership quality he brings. Like you saw how different we played when we were without him for his suspension earlier this year. We lost to Seton Hall, we lost a close game to Clemson, and I think we also lost to Memphis, didn't we?
Yeah.
And I mean, when you lose a guy like that, yes, we have PJ Dozier, who's an NBA talent in his own right. Is he ready for the NBA? Probably not, but could he be? Yes. So, but Sindarius Thornwell, you lose that leadership and that ability, and it's just like a huge impact on the court. So that's why he should be considered for this, because I mean, yes, Malik Monk is great, and is he the flashy pick for SEC Player of the Year? Yes. Is it most likely going to go to Malik Monk or Josh Jackson, like you said? Probably, but they're definitely going to have to consider Thornwell because he's been phenomenal. He's I can't remember what he's averaging. I think he's averaging about 20 points per game.
He hit 19.8 points per game, and like you said, going off of the 6-game suspension.
Yeah.
Even during that suspension, we still saw Thornwell stepping up as a leader for the Gamecocks. Like many of the freshmen, they always point to Thornwell as a true leader, leading them into the games, whether he's on the bench, coming off the bench. He's someone that the Gamecocks look to, and I think that's a very, very, very important thing to look at. And as far as, there's talk that his suspension might hinder his contenders for him being a contender for the SEC Player of the Year. He's nominated for the Naismith Player of the Year award.
Exactly, and when you look at Sindarius Thornwell, you talk about the maturity. You know, you talk about the leadership. What about the progression? You look at his numbers from
He didn't have to come here, too.
He didn't have to come here. You look at the numbers from a year ago. He averaged 13.4 points per game. He averaged 4.8 rebounds and over 1.5 steals. This year, he almost doubled his points with 20.1 per game, 7 rebounds a game, and 2.1 steals. He's actually motivated off the season we had a year ago. You look at their record now, they're 20-6. And Sindarius, I'm just going to go ahead and say, I feel like he's a late first-round pick for the NBA draft. He's just that good and that talented. And for him to be a 6'5" guard, I feel like he can impact wherever he goes. But I just feel like he is the Player of the Year this year. I feel like Malik Monk, like you said, he's more of an NBA caliber type player. He's just more athleticism. I really don't see any type of leadership in him. But Sindarius, I just see a lot of maturity in him, especially from last year.
I mean, he's been here, what, all 4 years
All
now?
4 years.
And I mean, it's not going to be the same seeing the Gamecocks on the court next year without him, because he's had such an impact on this, the school. Because I mean, the Gamecocks program when he came here was not great. We weren't that good, or USC wasn't that good in respect in the SEC. So I mean, when he came here, he started that new legacy in a way. He's worked hard. He's been a mentor. He started learning from other people, but he's been a mentor since his sophomore year. He's been teaching people how to act and what to do. Yes, he faltered by being suspended and what he did for that, but he learned from it. He made up for his mistakes, and he's just a workhorse. It's not going to be the same without him.
Yeah, definitely. And you can definitely tell, he's said time and time again, he's had a chip on his shoulder ever since, coming off of those 3 losses without him. He's been saying he's had a chip on his shoulder. And I think the theme of unfinished business, these guys really do take that seriously. And I think they're extremely hungry to make that NCAA tournament. And I truly do believe that Sindarius needs to be a serious candidate considered for the SEC Player of the Year award.
Exactly. So next up on the show, we're going to have 2 great plays of the week. Well, one of them is not so great. But we have a successful player of the week and the embarrassing player of the week. So first, we're going to start off with the most talked about play this week.
Which you've all probably seen. I mean, it's been all over SportsCenter, all over everything else.
Watched it a million times.
This is Zion Williamson from Spartanburg Day High School. He did a 360 dunk in a high school game. I mean,
it was a windmill too, right?
It was a 360 windmill. Probably one of the most athletic guys in South Carolina.
And how old is he, D?
He's 16 years old. He's a sophomore in high school. Is he a sophomore in high school?
I think
he might be a junior. I don't know.
He might be a soft junior. I don't know what he is, but he's athletic. He's probably the more athletic player since Jermaine O'Neal, who played high school back in the 90s. All right, so with success comes great failure. Obviously, nobody wants to be embarrassed.
Yeah, but
LeBron, it's your time.
We just gave you all that praise earlier. So.
Exactly. Of LeBron
I mean,
James.
he's still the greatest.
He's
so,
still
I mean,
the greatest, but you're not the greatest if you miss a wide open dunk.
Hey, everybody has bad days.
But it's
Yeah.
LeBron James.
Hey, Porter missed a wide open layup.
Yeah, that's true, but this is LeBron James. Miss layup, he thought he was fouled.
In his right.
In his right, he was not fouled.
He's still,
No.
That's just one you laugh about. I mean,
Yeah.
you laugh it off. You're the best player in the world. It's not always going to go your way,
Yeah.
but like it is funny to watch, and it's just funny.
I mean, LeBron,
With all that force he had, you know.
I
it
mean,
really
yeah,
sucks.
just stop
He missed
going
it.
to the weight room, man. Maybe you can throw it down. But you're the best player in the world, LeBron. We don't need this. We don't need this.
Exactly.
All right, to recap the show, prediction of the week. Obviously, baseball season is back here in South Carolina. Spring training is right around the corner, and the MLB opening day.
Pitchers and catchers I've already reported, by the way.
Exactly. MLB is right around the corner as well. So, obviously, the Chicago Cubs ended a drought 107 years.
Yep.
They won the World Series last year. Now you have teams who are also on a drought. Obviously, the Cleveland Indians, 68 seasons. Pittsburgh Pirates, 37 seasons. And your team, the Baltimore Orioles, 33 seasons. So, my question to both of y'all.
Oh, God.
Which team do you think will end the drought and win a World Series?
This year?
This year.
I don't know if it's going to be one of those teams because Cleveland has lost they lost a couple players this last season, and I mean, I love my Orioles. Don't get me wrong, but we're in a tough division, and it's normally a dogfight every season. I mean, you got the Red Sox who just gave up the world for Chris Sale, which that could either help or hurt because they gave up so much young talent to get Chris Sale, and Chris Sale is a streaky pitcher. But their rotation it now has the chance to be deadly with David Price and Chris Sale at the helm of that rotation. I'm forgetting a couple more, but their rotation's phenomenal. The Yankees got Chapman back from the Cubs, which that was a brilliant move by Cashman, by the way, because he traded him away knowing that there's a decent chance he could sign him back in the offseason, and they got so much young talent. So the Yankees, they had an off year last year, but they got so much younger, and they finally didn't just rely on getting free agents, that they got better. And then you also have the Blue Jays who are still good, and the Rays are decent. They're not great, but so I don't think the Orioles are going to do it either. I think the Orioles can make the playoffs, and I think most of these teams in this list will make the playoffs. The Pirates might not, but I don't think any of those three are going to necessarily win the World Series this year.
All right, Nya, what about you?
I don't watch any type of baseball. However, I don't. However, I watched Believeland on Netflix.
And that was great.
And it inspired me to want the Cleveland Indians to win.
Exactly.
Because I watched how literally that city has really been through something and how they really rejoiced after LeBron brought a title to the city after I have no clue how many ever years it was. But
a lot.
years.
52?
Yeah.
Something like that.
And so, yeah, I think it's time. I think it's overdue for them. So, especially with they kept coming so close.
Exactly.
And falling short. So
They had four chances to win it all, and it
Yeah.
just didn't go their way. I mean, baseball's like that sometimes. It just one bounce and it doesn't go your way. That Game 7 though this last year was great.
Yeah.
Oh my God. How they came back too. They hit that home run to tie, and then next thing you know, we had that weather delay, and everybody freaked out. You're like, oh my God, this is never going to end. But the Cubs won a World Series. I have so many friends from Chicago and family from Chicago that went nuts because they hadn't won in what, over 100 years, was it? I don't
107.
107 years. I mean, that's just insane. Think about that. Your whole life, fans went their whole lives without seeing the Cubs win. And I mean, did you see Bill Murray's reaction after they won? He was crying, and then next thing you know, he goes in the locker room and he gets drunk with all the players, and he's crying, and you can see that in all the emotions of the Cubs fans. And that's why sports are great, because they give you something to care about, and they give you something that you just go with the ups and downs. Like for me, I've been an Orioles fan my whole life. We've been terrible. And then when we finally won the division 3 years ago, my mom was crying because it had been like 17, 18 years since we had made the playoffs. And I mean, sports is just one of those things that just gives you a hope, and you can dream. And all these Cubs fans had been dreaming their whole life, and they finally got that championship. It's just beautiful.
Fun fact about the city of Cleveland and their sports teams. Well,
oh God.
LeBron and the Cavaliers, they came back from a 3-1 deficit in
Yes, sir.
the NBA Finals. However, the Cleveland Indians gave up a 3-1 deficit to the Chicago Cubs in the World Series. So,
Karma sucks sometimes.
karma does suck. Karma, it really does. For a lot of people, including me. Well, guys, this wraps up the first episode of Spurs Up. Nya, I really thank you for coming onto the show today. I really appreciate having you. You look lovely, too.
I almost died, but, it was worth it.
Yeah. On behalf of Capital City Sports, I'm DeAngelo Stevenson.
I'm Ben Parsons.
And
I'm Nya Simone.
okay, Nya Simone. And we hope to see you guys next time.